Washington, D.C. faced a terrifying breach in its security ring when 29-year-old Afghan national Rahmanullah Lakanwal walked up to a National Guard patrol and opened fire at point-blank range, just steps from the White House. Investigators say the precision and timing of the ambush suggest a deliberate, motive-driven attack.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. America will never bend and never yield in the face of terror. I have directed the Department of War to mobilize an additional 500 troops to help protect our capital city.
Lakanwal, a former Afghan army soldier who once trained alongside U.S. forces, had no criminal record, making the attack even more baffling. Authorities are probing whether he was driven by ideological radicalization, psychological breakdown, or a personal grievance against U.S. military personnel. This is now the central question gripping Washington. President Trump called the shooting an act of evil, hatred, and terror, confirming that the suspect came to the U.S. on Biden's 2021 Afghan evacuation flights. He said the attack was a crime against the entire nation and vowed the suspect would pay the steepest possible price. Trump warned that millions of unknown and unvetted foreigners had entered the country under the previous administration, calling it America's greatest national security threat. He announced an immediate deployment of 500 more troops to secure the capital. The FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force is now leading the probe, treating the shooting as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. FBI Director Kash Patel said every federal agency, from DHS to ATF to Secret Service, has been mobilized.
Two of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. We've assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice. Because this is a matter of national security, we find and safeguard our nation's capital right here in Washington, D.C., and bring anyone responsible for this heinous act of violence to justice.
Despite over 2,000 National Guard troops already deployed in D.C., the attacker found an opening. The ambush has reignited concerns that Washington's most protected zones have glaring security blind spots, especially against lone wolf threats capable of slipping through surveillance nets. War Secretary Pete Hegseth denounced the shooting as a cowardly, dastardly act targeting America's best.
Very productive meetings, but I want to start by saying after those meetings, myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House.
Within hours of the attack, immigration processing for Afghan nationals was suspended nationwide. J.D. Vance said the attack proved the stakes were higher than Washington realized.
I want to say first, before we get started, on a somber note, we had, and some of you may have seen this on your phones or on social media, but apparently there was a shooting outside the White House just a couple of hours ago. Our soldiers are the sword and the shield of the United States of America. And as a person who goes into work every single day in that building and knows that there are a lot of people who wear the uniform of the United States Army, let me just say very personally, thank them for what they're doing.
The hunt for Lakanwal's motive, ideological, emotional, or retaliatory, is now driving the investigation. With national security, immigration vetting, and political tensions converging, the attack has become a flashpoint in America's post-Afghan war debate. Washington demands answers, and investigators say the motive may define the next phase of U.S. security policy.